Well, good morning. Welcome to the Alpine Church of Spiritual Living. This morning I'm going to be reading the thought for the week, and you can join me down at the bottom where it's in bold. The merry month of May is coming to a close, and with it we are rounding out the theme of change gracefully or not. Hopefully we are leaning towards gracefully. One of the most challenging aspects of change is the unknown. For our finite mind wants, yearns, craves to know exact outcomes. And yet the divine truly is a mystery to us all. When we, as Emerson stated, get our bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits, it is in this beginner's mind attitude that we are open, humble, and receptive to entering the kingdom. Jesus himself taught in parables, leaving room for a variety of interpretations. This was purposely done since the divine is beyond the human understanding. As long as we approach life from a dualistic standpoint, there will always be misunderstanding. It would behoove us to constantly remind ourselves that we don't know. The mystic Catholic priest Richard Rohr wrote, Jesus himself consistently honored and allowed mystery. 7 times in Matthew 13 alone, Jesus taught that ultimate reality, in parentheses, which he calls the kingdom, in the parentheses, is always like something. He clearly offers simile and metaphor to invite further reflection and journey, not to impose a single understanding. Mystery is not that which is not understandable. Mystery is that which is endlessly understandable. If we are to learn anything, hopefully it will be to remain open to the sweet mystery of life. Eileen Cady, writing the channeled work entitled Opening Doors Within, advises, move out of your little puddle and expand your consciousness. Do not be satisfied to accept just what you can understand, but be willing to go further and to step right out of your depth and do the seeming impossible. Live on the brink of something completely new, in parentheses. That is diving into the mystery. Knowing and leaning on the power within to bring you through so that you may soar to new heights of being. Say with me, I am willing and able to dive deep into the mystery of life. I know that I don't know and am humble and teachable to allow the divine circuits to bring me to a deeper level of accepting life on its terms. I welcome what life brings, and I am deeply grateful, and it is so. So are you ready to dive into the mystery? Whether we recognize it or not, life really is a mystery. And yet our ego is always trying to control and to know what is happening and what will happen. But life doesn't happen on that schedule. Life doesn't happen in that way. It doesn't happen on the ego schedule. Life operates on its schedule. I think I shared with some of you that as Peter left to drive up to Canada, he left me his 2 cats, which he's done in the past. I've had them since they were kittens now and then. And I wasn't home when he dropped them off, but when I saw the little tiny petite black one, I looked at her and went, there's something extra hanging down there in the middle of her. And when Peter called me, I was trying to tell him that his cat is pregnant. And so I said, you know, your cat is, the Jacqueline, the dark one, is with child. And he wasn't listening to me. He was kind of talking too. You know how you can talk the same time on a phone call. And then he stopped and he said, what did you say about a child? And I said, and then I tried to change the words so they'd understand more clearly. And I said, your cat is knocked up. And he said, his response was, well, I did notice that she was eating more than the other one. It was clueless. So I have researched, and the gestation period of the cat is about 2 months. I will have them a month. We don't know when the inception was, so to speak. So she is getting bigger and bigger, sleeping a lot more, eating, yes. And so we'll see what the schedule is, what the divine circuits have in store for when she will deliver her babies. I don't know how many. And it's amazing to think about how that truly this is a major example of life being a mystery. There is no way, we have no idea. Now they were inside cats. That's why I didn't have her fixed. Oh, she's gonna be inside. Well, then you know how that goes. She scooted out a time or two, and so things happen like that. And yes, that's how they happen, Kathy. they get together with somebody else. So any event, I am preparing. I'm doing what I need to do to be prepared as best I can. But I think that it's such an example of how life gives us surprises. And life gives us challenges that we did not put on the agenda, that we didn't sign up for. And as Eileen Cady said, but it's our opportunity to dive deeper into the mystery of life, to give ourselves the onus to recognize that whatever is in front of me that I didn't plan, that I didn't ask for, that I am able and willing to step up and do the best that I can do. And that I that I'm talking about is the I within, that spiritual I, that greater I that is within us. I had talked to a friend, and he continually says, I'm sad I sold my house. I wish I wouldn't have sold my house. You know, it's just, it wasn't, I sure wish I still lived there, you know, going on and on and on. And, you know, it's that example, well, hindsight's 20/20, you know, but you were doing the best you could do at the time. At the time, you thought was the best thing for you. And it makes me think of that Willie Nelson song, I could cry for the time I've wasted, but that's a waste of time and tears. I've forgiven everything that forgiveness will allow, and there's nothing I can do about it now. So I keep reminding, there's nothing you can do about it now. You know, regret doesn't pull you into the present moment at all. It just makes you feel sad. It makes you feel bad. Someone told me that other people in the community call our church the feel-good church. I think I'm grateful for that. I think we all want to feel good. So regrets tie us down to what was, what could have been, the if-onlys. And that is not the way life works. Life is changing, and it is changing gracefully. So when we have that deep sense of peace, when we can let go of the reins of life and allow it to just be what it is, that's when we find this beautiful peace. As I said in the thought for the week, Jesus spoke of the kingdom of God, and in many times he used a metaphor, a simile, because it is like this or that, meaning that it is broader. It is closer. The kingdom is closer than hands and feet. It is within us at all times. We don't have to go looking for it. It's right there. And it is the one that knows. It is the one that knows the very highest and the very best, even if it means pushing us to the edge of our comfort zone. I was telling my friend Michelle Whittington the other day, I said, you know, this is one of my sayings. I say, Lord knows and he's not telling. And she replied back, yes, and I wish she would. In the Signs of Mind magazine, I read a quote from Elizabeth Lesser. It said, when you feel yourself breaking down, may you break open instead. May your every experience in life be a door that opens your heart, expands your understanding, and leads you to freedom. Breaking open the heart. Deborah Perdue then further stated, but letting our hearts break open with big changes yields fruitful new harvests. I may hesitate to open the new door further, and that is natural too. It takes courage and tenacity to wonder, step forward, and embrace what God has in store for us. That is the not knowing, to be comfortable with the not knowing. It does take courage, it does take tenacity to move forward when our small egoic mind doesn't know what's going to happen next. It reminds me of the tragedies, we call tragedies, that we see, like when there's these big fires are raging, in the forests and so forth, and trees are dying, and animals are dying, and homes are even destroyed and whatnot. And in the wake of that, though, there are certain seeds that have been in the ground for years that needed that fire in which to break them open, and so that they can then spread and be and live the life that they have been brought to this earth plane to live. So we too have those opportunities when we are faced with those wild fires of life to let ourselves break open to the newness that definitely will come forth. I'm reading Richard Rohr, and I agree with him on his attitude that we need to be inclusive in life. Earlier in the Thought for the Week, it was saying duality. When we have this, it is right or wrong. When you have that sort of attitude, then you are closing yourself up to the expansiveness of spirit of the universe. So the both realizations, and both and rather than either or decisions. Think about that. Both and rather than either or. Remember what's printed on our currency. E plurimus unum, out of many, one. Rohr goes on to say mature religions and now some scientists say that we are hardwired for the big picture, for transcendence, for ongoing growth, for union with ourselves and everything else. We are driven toward even higher levels of union and ability to include, even if some of us go kicking and screaming. As Teilhard de Chardin put it, everything that rises must converge. Life is bigger and bigger and bigger and more inclusive than what our finite minds can comprehend, what our finite being is. When we look, though, to within us and allow that it of life to blossom within us, then we can let go of the consternation of thinking that we have to handle it all. This is an infinite spirit that we are living. This life that we have is infinite within us. And we need to allow it to become forth and bring forth and spring forth. We get so hooked up into all of the humanness stuff of life, all of what's going on, all the conditions, all the news, all the media, all of that, when if we could just allow ourselves to be anchored in that stillness, the song that we listened to this morning, when I go in that stillness, that's when we're rejuvenated. Thomas Merton wrote, "The shallow eye of individualism can be possessed, developed, cultivated, and pandered to, satisfied. It is the center of all our striving for gains and for satisfaction, whether material or spiritual. But the deep eye of the spirit, of solitude and of love, cannot be had, possessed, developed, perfected. It can only be an act according to the inner laws which are not of man's contriving, but which come from God. They are the laws of the Spirit who, like the wind, blow where he wills, or she. This inner I, who is always alone, is always universal. The both and the and. For in this inmost I, my own solitude meets the solitude of every other man and the solitude of God. Hence, it is beyond division, beyond limitation, beyond selfish affirmation. So we are to go within and know and trust this divine being, this I that is within us, this kingdom, this he or she or it, whatever you want to call it, that is our life. There is a mystery in life, and we are so much more prone to being at peace when we can accept that. I know in the past few weeks I was reading the welcoming prayer. Have anybody here haven't heard it? I gave you all copies of it, right? You didn't get a copy yet? Well, I've got extra copies. But what I did is I copied the page from my talk, and at the very bottom of the page, and I've had people ask me, it says, and this reminds me of a plaque that I have in my bathroom. And then the plaque information was on the next page, so none of you got that. But I've had people say, what was that plaque? What's on that plaque? How many times has that gone through your head? Well, I want to share with you what the plaque says. It says, divine right action is always taking place in my life. Only good comes from each experience. Divine right action is always taking place in my life. That's the mystery. That's what we don't know. Only good comes from each experience. Now, that one my ego mind has had some arguments with that. But I think it takes time to see the good that is happening. And so I recognize that we are these spirit beings, and we forget it. We get so focused on anything else that we don't take the time to go within and befriend this spirit that is breathing us, that is being us, that is beating our hearts. To befriend it, to love it, and to know that it is supporting us, it is leading and guiding us, it is giving us everything that we have need of. We are totally one in the spiritual realm of life. Yes, with absolutely differences that we see galore, but